everybody, welcome back to Author Eke. Today we have Matt Scott. He'll be talking about his books, writing process, and if you know Author Eke, whatever comes into both of our minds, we're going to talk about, especially my mind because it rambles and goes all over the place. So, Matt, why don't you introduce yourself to the Author Eke crew?
All right. Well, I'll try and make this as fast as I can, but my journey to writing is a little bit of a lengthy one. But long
Okay.
story short, I hated reading when I was growing up. I mean, I absolutely hated it. They made us read such quote unquote classics in high school and college that I just could not get into it. And when the phenomenon that was the Da Vinci Code came out,
Oh, yeah.
I kind of clamored to it like everybody else. I was like, I got to
Mhm.
read this. And I was on the elevator one day at work and talking to some guy, one of my colleagues, about spy novels, and there was another guy on the elevator that I just didn't see. And he starts talking about, well, if you like spy novels, you need to check out Vince Flynn. Now, I never saw that guy before in my life. I've never seen
Uh-huh.
him again. So I think that was a moment of divine literary
Oh, wow.
intervention because um, once I logged on to Vince Flynn and Brad Thor, I was hooked. And when you start, reading novels spy novels, year after
Hmm.
year, you're not only reading it, you're kind of taking a class in the author's craft, right?
Hmm.
So things just kind of started to absorb, and I started thinking about writing, my own novel. But self-doubt is a curse to all of us, right? I'm
Yep.
I'm from the corporate world. I have no experience in either military intelligence, CIA intelligence, or least of all the literary world. So it
Hmm.
was kind of like, can I do this? And but I started forming an idea in my head, and Iran had always been fascinating to me, just simply because of the hostage crisis that happened, and
Hmm.
I always wondered what it was like before that crisis took place, and what's it like now? Because because of all the economic sanctions and the lack of diplomatic relations between the two countries, a lot of people from the West just don't even know what it looks like. I mean, you
Hmm.
had the Argo movie a few years ago, and you got to see a little bit of a glimpse, but I really wanted to explore it a little more. But then I went to a book signing with David Baldacci in Williamsburg. I drove through a snowstorm to get to see him, and I was getting ready to be 40 at the time, and it was my turn at the desk, and I was like, "Look, I'm getting ready to be 40 next year. Is that too old to write your first novel?" And I kid you not, he
I was
stopped.
62.
You're 62?
I was
Oh,
62 and I wrote my first novel.
oh man. Okay, so that gives us all hope, right? And but I mean, I'm kidding you. He stopped mid-signature. I have the book where the dot is, and he stopped.
Oh, wow.
And he said, "No, hell no. The industry could use some good young writers." So I didn't know if I should be happy that this great man, this of the literary world, was telling me to go forth with my destiny, or that he thought 40 was still young. But I
Yep.
took him at his word and started writing. So I started Surviving the Lion's Den in
Hmm.
April of 2019. I hired an editor of my own from New York, and I worked with her. We kind of retooled some things, and I spent COVID getting an agent. And by that December, I had a publisher, and uh, Surviving the Lion's Den came out in October 21. And I
Hmm.
was fortunate enough that my publisher liked it enough. He said, "Well, I like it, but I like it enough that I just don't want one. I want a series." So
Oh, wow.
I wasn't really in a position to tell him no. But I had to come up with two more ideas right off the top of the bat, and he
Hmm.
said yes. And those two other books ended up being the Iranian Deception, and I closed the series out with the Ayatollah Takedown, which came out March of last year.
Excellent. Excellent. So when I was in seventh grade, I could hardly read. Right.
Really?
I had to go to extra. I didn't have any kind of issues other than I didn't like to read. So because I couldn't read very well. So I had to go to
Okay.
special reading classes, seventh and eighth grade, and then I really started reading in the Army because you have to read
Okay.
manuals and everything. And
Yeah.
World According to Garp, was like the first book that I really ever remember reading, and that was a
Really?
big old book. Then of course Tom Clancy, Robert Ludlum, Clive
Uh-huh.
Cussler, uh, the Dan Brown, and then some folks that Steve Stratton, and
Right.
some other books that I've started latching on to. I actually interviewed Kyle Mills last August,
Oh, no
who wrote
kidding.
some of the. Oh yeah, great guy, great guy. Um, so yeah, so it's interesting. Yeah, I don't think you're ever too old to do something as long as you have a creative mind.
I agree. Yeah, and you got to have
And
the drive to see it through.
yeah, what you have to do is you have to tell somebody you're going to write a book, because once you do that, they're going to ask you, "Is it done?"
Right.
So,
Yeah, no,
and you know
that's
what?
yeah.
Oh no, it's not done. I'm still writing it. What are you writing? I mean, War and Peace or something. I mean, you know, so
Well,
so yeah.
well, see, for me, it was actually a little bit different. I didn't tell anybody. The only person that knew was my wife, and
Mm,
I was doing it simply because I was in a dead end job in corporate America that I just was not happy with. I mean,
right.
there are a number of factors associated with it, some of which were I share the blame for. But I mean, I wasn't going anywhere. So at some point, it just got to be like, I have this idea. I owe it to myself
Mm,
to to see this out and to try it.
right.
And it was because I didn't want to be on my deathbed saying I wish I had.
Right.
I'd always had kind of a talent for writing, but writing fiction was something totally different.
Mm-hmm.
And it ended up being a very liberating experience for me because it was just me and the keyboard. I had no boss to report to but myself.
Nope.
I was living and dying by the sword,
You set your
and
own deadlines.
exactly. And but
Right.
I mean, I was strict with myself, and
Mm-hmm.
I set a routine. I do about 1,500 words a day or so, um, and uh, I just made sure that I challenged myself. And one of the
Mm-hmm.
best things that ever happened to me was I'm kind of in between a plotter and a pantser. What I'll
Mm-hmm.
do is I'll say something as simple as Travis is going to the store, and I know where the direction I'm going, but I have to work it out during the process of writing the chapter as to
Mm-hmm.
how I want to do it. Um, but I would often write myself into corners when I got there. I was like, oh my God, I have no idea how I'm going to do this. And how am I going to write myself out of this?
Yeah.
And the best thing that ever happened to me was, allowing the creative process to take over and just, you have an idea and you just go with it. And
To
sooner or
the end.
later, yeah, and sooner or
Yeah.
later, you've written a character out of a situation and that you hadn't even thought about. You just let the
Yeah.
creative process take over. And
Right.
I remember doing that a couple times, and I just kind of sat back and I'm like, wow, that was pretty good. Let me go take I would take a celebratory shot of Jack Daniels after that moment, and
And about
just kind of
four later,
congratulate.
you're going, I can't write anymore. No, no.
Yeah, I have to limit myself to one, just the one shot.
So I'm very much like you. I started as a pantser, right, and
Okay,
just writing what's the top of your mind and trying to get the whole thought out to the
yeah,
end.
yeah,
Then my latest book, One of Four, historical fiction, I didn't outline. I just put what I wanted to put in the book,
right.
like weapons, weather, uh, time period. That. So that's how I based the book, off of what I wanted to put into it. Because what did I need to research for those particular items to put in the book?
Right. Yeah, yeah.
Because I don't know if I can. I don't. I'm like a squirrel. I don't think I have. I'll start outlining. Well, I don't want to do that anymore. I just want to start writing. And then I'll
Yeah.
just start writing.
Yeah, I don't know how. I mean, you talked about Kyle Mills. I know how he outlines and how he
Mm-hmm.
writes, and quite frankly, it's just a testament to how good he is. Because I don't, it would drive me nuts to to outline and to write the way he does. But everybody has their own process, right?
Yes.
And for me, that process is, I'll work my 8 to 5 job. I'll go downstairs, have dinner with my wife till she falls asleep
Mm-hmm.
on the couch at 8:30, and I'll come back upstairs and write. And the
Mm-hmm.
first thing that I'll always do is I will reread what I wrote the chapter before, the day
I do
before.
too, and I
Uh,
edit.
yeah.
I edit what I read. I'm like, I'm
Oh
never
yeah,
going
no,
to get done.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And to
Yeah.
me, it's beneficial because that's the way to get the creative juices flowing. That's like stretching before a workout, right?
Hmm.
And then, okay, you've done your stretching, you know where you're going. Now, okay, go ahead and write, the next chapter. And like I
Hmm.
said, my number is anywhere between 1,000 and 1,500 words. Now, if I have a chapter that ends up being like maybe 500, 700, I'll go ahead and write the next chapter. My brain has a good way of letting me know when it's exhausted. But
Right.
my only hard and fast rule is once I start a chapter, I have to finish it. I will not stop in the middle of a chapter because it's too hard to get the creative juices flowing. And if
Hmm.
I'm writing a chapter that I just think isn't working well, I delete the whole thing. I stop and I'll come back the next day and just try it again because
Hmm.
I'm not gonna try and my process is that you go with what works,
Right.
and if something's not working, then there's no need to keep over analyzing and fighting it because that's when the dreaded B word comes in, block.
Yeah.
And you don't want to put yourself in that situation. So it's easier just to kind of just walk away
Yep.
and come back because it'll come back to you.
Right.
It's one of those things that once you have an idea of where you're going to go, you're not going to let yourself down.
Right. I agree. For the book I just finished is I was halfway through the third in my Team Texarkana series, and I had
Okay.
this idea, and I just stopped and started writing this book, and I could not stop writing it.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know. It was an interesting situation, right? It felt part of the book.
When the
Um,
juices are flowing, you don't stop
yeah,
them.
no, and that's why finished that in, pretty good time. But yeah, I like to write. Up, I retired. Then I figured I didn't like not doing anything really. So I'm a monitor on special education bus here in the school district in Allen. So
Nice,
it's like 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon. I get all the whole time off. So I come home
nice.
and work out and then write. In summertime, I got all summer off, which is fantastic. So I'll just
Right.
work out in the morning, then come out and sit out by the pool, and work outside, and then type outside because I
Okay.
like that. Because by the end of the day, I'm like, I want a beer, and you're disciplined because you stop at 1, uh, and I want to, just kind of relax and kind of decompress a little bit. Not
Yeah, no,
decompose,
no.
decompress.
Yeah, no, no, I get it. Yeah, no, no, I get it. I mean, everybody's got to do what works for them. I mean, I can listen to maybe some instrumental music. I think
Oh, I love
Jack
listening to
Stewart.
country and western when I do it.
Yeah, yeah,
When I write.
Jack Stewart. I remember I was listening to Jack Stewart. He and I kind of have the same
Mm-hmm.
process. I mean, I'll listen to some instrumental, but mostly, I like to write in my office. If I have headphones on, it's going to be usually to block things out. But I can't listen to anything with lyrics because I'll start singing along. Once Guns N' Roses starts going, man, you can't get me. You can't stop me. So.
Well,
Um,
sweet something of mine is in your book
Sweet
somewhere. It's
Child of
like,
Mine,
what
man.
is it?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
sweet child. I don't know.
when that guitar chord hits, man, it's full stop, man. It's full stop.
I
Uh,
like this one song, and the second book, Cobalt, is it's a beautiful Chinese woman, and but she doesn't know it. She absolutely doesn't know how beautiful she is, and
mhm.
so I put in there that while this guy's talking to her, he's in his mind. He goes thinking of the song. She doesn't know how beautiful she is. So he's singing that to himself as he's talking to her. He said, "You just don't know." So I kind of add some stuff in there. But
Right.
so what are you writing now? I mean, you're done with your series. Are you writing another series, or are you writing a whole new? Because I went from thriller, fiction, suspense
Mm.
to historical fiction.
Yeah, no, I've just started on an idea for a new book. Whether or not it'll be a series or not, I don't know yet. It is going to be different. I really enjoyed writing about Iran. I got to admit, I really enjoyed it because the location is so important to me in a
And people
plot.
think it's an
And
Arab country. It's a Persian country. It's
yeah,
Persian.
yeah, no,
It's not.
yeah, it's
They're not Arab.
No, no, no,
in a sense of the
not.
word.
And but I mean, there's a lot of beauty that's still there,
Mm.
despite what's despite the
Yeah,
government. So there's a
yeah, yeah.
lot to still see there. So location's really important to me, but I think I'm gonna pivot a little bit, just because I'm looking at the international market a little
Hmm.
bit, and it just seems like it's things are changing a little bit. So I think I want to go. I think I'm going to be doing a little bit more of a domestic conspiracy thriller. I can't tell you too much about it just simply because I haven't. I've literally just
Oh, of
started
course.
outlining it and
Mm.
start scratching the surface. But
Yeah.
um, once you're a writer, you're always a writer. I tend to think that you just can't stop the creative
Right.
juices from flowing.
No, I
But I mean,
agree.
my contract with these books was for three, and they haven't approached me for anything else. I mean, if they do, I'll certainly consider it.
Mm.
But in the meantime, I'm kind of back on my own clock, which is a good thing because as proud as I am of the Surviving the Lion's Den series, my publisher put me on a really really tight timeline.
Oh, I
I mean,
bet.
at one point, I was working 8 to 5. I was uh, editing the second book, marketing
Hmm.
the first book, and starting to write the third one. So I mean, it was a lot of long days and long nights. Uh,
Yep.
so that was the schedule they put me on, and I was a first time writer. And I wasn't. I guess I could have said no or asked them to change it, but I wasn't going to simply because I was still still had my head in the clouds from the fact that oh, I'm a
I
published
gotta
writer
put. I'm a
now.
writer.
So
I gotta put.
exactly, exactly, exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. I think I've already got an idea for my second one, which I got from the first one, as I was reading the history of World War One. Something
Hmm.
that I didn't know. Uh, so now I'm starting to research that, and I'm going to write another one uh, based on
Very nice.
that that whole situation. I'm formulating it in my mind because when I start them, I
Right,
just kind of want to go for it.
right,
Pretty
yeah,
good. But yeah,
yeah,
but you struck on something that I think a lot of authors struggle with, and that's the marketing aspect of a book.
yeah, yeah.
And I tell folks it is every book is a business.
Absolutely.
You've got to have a plan. And I didn't know that on my first two books, from the publisher perspective. I didn't know. I mean, I
Yeah,
they, they say go out and market your book. I'm like, well, what do you do? So I
yeah,
got do the podcasts and things, but so I think that's the hardest, building a brand and then
absolutely.
executing your plan and then modifying it based on the situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And you just I'm not an expert in it, but I've certainly learned a lot of things along the way. I
Mm-hmm.
I am fortunate, that, and I'm sure you feel this way too, but the writing community, I was really concerned about, how much competition, other writers would feel
Mm-hmm.
against, people in their genre, and it is
Mm-hmm.
not like that. Everybody,
No.
it is a very tight knit supportive community.
Yep.
You repost my stuff, I'll repost yours.
Yep.
We'll help each other out because it's tough to hit big,
Yeah.
in this industry. It really is. I mean, unless you really publish by one of the top publishers,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's hard to hit big, and you just have to do everything that you can. I mean, if I could afford to take out a $3 million billboard in Times Square, I certainly would.
I could.
Not
I couldn't
everybody.
pay for it. I could afford it. I just couldn't pay for
Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, creditors would be knocking on my door.
it.
So but you just you do everything that you can, and as long as you just keep putting out that
Mm-hmm.
effort, I mean, it's at some point something's going to hit. Nobody bats zero forever. I mean,
Right.
at some point the door is going to open. So you just got to keep pecking away. But you do have to be creative
Yep.
with how you market it, what you post. You have to
Right.
be careful on your social media when you're
Mm-hmm.
posting something that's not related to your book.
Yep.
And uh, you know, the podcast community has been very, very supportive
Mm-hmm.
as well, yourself included. So, but you make a lot of good connections. And, I went to BoucherCon in San Diego this past fall. And,
I'll be there in Nashville this year. I will be
Oh,
there in
good.
Nashville.
We'll get a beer because I'll be there.
Yeah.
I'll be there this year. Matter of fact,
Yeah.
here's a funny story. My wife always wanted to go to Nashville. She found out that BoucherCon was going to be in Nashville. I woke up the next morning. She's like, "Okay, BoucherCon's in Nashville. I've already signed you up. We're going." I'm like, "Okay, okay.
I
Well,
didn't know
that
you had an
makes it,
agent. You didn't know you had
yeah,
an agent.
makes it a little easy." So, but when I was in San Diego, I got to meet a lot of people that, I've been corresponding with on social
Mhm.
media, and it was a really good time. And making those connections is really important because I really feel like despite what social media has become, at least within the writing community, it's still very much a who do you know type business,
Oh yeah.
and I think that's definitely important. So I'll keep going to BoucherCon as long as I can. Um, they're going to have one, I think, in Toronto in a couple of years. I'm not sure I'm going to make that one, but
Hmm.
between Thriller Fest and BoucherCon, it's important to stay visible.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do BoucherCon. I think I'm gonna do the military writing one in the latter part of September.
Where's
Um,
that? I haven't heard of that one.
it's San Diego.
It is going to be San Diego.
Hmm. Yeah.
You have to send
So
me.
I
You have to
believe I'm
send me
gonna
some
do that
information
one.
about that.
Those two, uh, because I'm kind of switching genres.
Uh-huh.
But you struck on something. The social media is important. You have a finite amount of dollars. Where do you put those ad dollars to?
Yeah.
How do you get the message out? Staying consistent. How do you? Because you're right. The top five. I mean, they just send books to the Barnes and Nobles and Books a Million and boom, and
Yeah,
it's
they do it
bestseller
for you.
because they sent 1,000 books, right? So not
Right.
that they
Yeah.
sold necessarily.
Yeah.
And then you talk about competition. There'd only be competition if there was like 25 readers in the world, right?
Yeah.
That there's competition. But I when I wrote my first book, I said I'm not going to let anybody read it because I don't want anybody to get an idea or nothing. Even the second book. Now this book, once it was, I told some folks once it was done, I say read it, here's a PDF, right? I mean, it's done editing, but read it. Let me know. And I've got
Hmm.
some great feedback. So I think that's important to get that because there is no competition. When I look at it,
Yeah.
nobody said, "Oh, that I'm not, terrible book. Don't write it," or I'm not going to
Yeah.
help you. It's been the complete opposite. It's been a very synergetic type of partner ecosystem.
Yeah, I agree. And who you get your book in the hands of is really really important. That's
Mm-hmm.
where the community
Yep.
part comes in. I've got a really good relationship with Steve Yerseni who did the book Perfect Shot that just came out, and he'll read my book and give me a review. I'll read his. He'll and
Yep.
give him a review, and the I went to a book signing with Brad Meltzer one time, and he said to hit it big, your goal is to make sure that you get your book in front of the right person, and there's a lot of steps involved in that. You're not
Mm-hmm.
going to just step on the big stone the first time out. You got to step on
Yep.
a lot of little stones and kind of lead your way up. But reviews are important. Obviously, Amazon and
Yep.
Goodreads reviews are important.
I
Goodyear,
usually put
sorry.
GoDaddy. I usually put GoDaddy.
um, but I've been fortunate that my novels have been gotten good enough reviews that they've made their way into the hands of some former CIA personnel, and you write the books for anybody so that anybody can read them,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
Selfishly, I think I wrote my novels a little bit for myself, just simply because I
Mhm.
wanted to prove that I could do it. But I wrote it in the best way possible that would represent the CIA personnel that I'm writing about, and for them to always come back and say, you did a really good job.
Yeah.
With the geopolitical climate, how you represented the operative and stuff like that.
Hmm.
That's the type of smile that just never comes away from my face. I mean, it's just when the real people tell you you did it right. That's awesome, and that type of authenticity goes a long way in marketing.
Yeah. It's 104. I've sent out some folks, some Steve Stratton, Eric Bishop, uh,
Hmm.
Jeff Circles, a bunch of folks,
Yeah.
Michael Carlson,
Hmm.
and the feedback and some of it's like I had to read it twice because there was just not this. It's hard read. It's just it's emotional.
Yeah.
or uh, you know, I had to sit back and think about what I wrote, what I read,
Hmm.
because how I put the book together. Um,
Yeah.
David Darling, and I've never seen anybody write the way that you have. Uh, almost like first, third, and second person in the book,
Oh wow. Okay,
because
that's tough.
there's a father son. At first, is a kind of a third person of what happened in 1918, French girl, and
Hmm.
then what happened. The book's found by a father and son, so they're communicating back and forth, but they're also reading the diary out loud,
Hmm.
and as they go and they build a relationship because of what happens in the diary.
Interesting. I
But
tell
yeah,
you what, bravo. That's tough to do. So bravo. That is tough to do.
that's all. But it's no. I mean, I'm pretty impressed with it. I mean, I like it, and it's
Yeah, you
interesting.
should. You should be.
It's interesting because it I kind of dedicate it to the third old guard, the Tomb of the Unknown
Hmm.
Soldier. So I'm actually
Hmm.
trying to communicate with those guys. I got with the PAO. I would like to give a book down to the Sentinels so they can read it, because it is uh, about that,
Very
about the
nice.
soldier in the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, so
Very nice. Bravo.
yeah, we'll see. But I mean, I like it. It's an enjoyable book to read. I get emotional when I read it, and I wrote it.
I
And
tell
I'm
you
not an
what,
emotional person. Talk to folks. I'm not an emotional person.
well, I mean, I tell you what, to me, I think that's a sign. I mean, it's going to sound weird to hear this, but I mean, to me, that's a sign of skill. I mean, there was a couple of, a couple of moments that, I wrote in Lion's Den, and well, really a couple in all three books. But anyway,
Mhm.
uh, emotional scenes are meant to be simply that,
Yeah.
emotional. So, I mean, if you can't feel that when you're writing it, or when you do feel that when you're writing it, then you should also feel it when you're reading it, even though you're reading it back to yourself,
My
because
wife said, "What's the matter?" I
uh,
go, "Damn onions."
oh, it's just my allergies.
Yeah, it's all right. What is this? Is this April, May? What am I? March? Yeah, I got allergies. So you're writing another one. When do
Right.
you have like a timeline? You want to be able to put that out, and where can everybody get a hold of you and find you and buy your books and stuff?
All right. Well, so the new one, TBD. Like I just started on it, and
Hmm.
framework. So it's I've still got some research to do, so it's probably going to be about a year. I
Okay.
hope to make it less than that, but I do not like to rush the process.
Hmm.
You don't get many chances to make a good impression, especially with a
Yep.
new series. So I got to make
Yes.
sure that I do it right. If you want to check out, excerpts from my books and my website, and even some book trailers, you can go to mattscottbooks.com. And you can always reach me on any of the social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, at Matt Scott Books. I do not do TikTok because I am not a fan of Chinese spyware. It may hurt me in sales, but I am not putting that on my
Mhm.
phone.
I, can- I can see that.
Yeah.
I use it, but I don't like. I very seldom do I post on it. I just Yeah, I mean, I mean, people got my crap probably already, but I have I have a tendency to agree with you
Yeah,
about that.
it's funny though, when I went to BoucherCon, I was in one of the conferences with some agents and some publishers, and they said that they actually have weekly meetings about TikTok, and I think it's a good thing, because
Hmm.
all it takes is for a one of the users who has 1 million followers or whatever to start talking about your book, and then all of a sudden things take off, and that part of it is truly excellent, and I think it's
Hmm.
done wonders for especially, I think, the romance, the fantasy, and to a certain extent
Yeah.
the sci-fi genre. The thrillers are, I think, are a little bit different, because
Hmm.
our audience tends to be, you know, 50 plus,
Hmm.
generally speaking. It's not
Hmm.
always that way, but
Yeah.
so TikTok is a little bit different, and you have to get really creative on TikTok to really get something to take off. And as dedicated as I am to that process, I'm not going to spend 4 days trying to post a 30-second video that I hope
Yeah. We get
will go
something.
viral. But, just there's Brad Thor is too his ingrained in my mind too much that the Chinese spyware is not something you want to mess with. So I just kind
Yeah,
of
I'm using more
I kind of leave it.
Instagram. I'm using more
Yeah,
Instagram now. Facebook. I'm not a big fan of Facebook either. Demise of Western civilization. And you know, Twitter or X and
yeah,
things like that. Book signings and getting the name out and getting the folks to review your book. That's important. So, folks, if you read a book, put a review out on Amazon or Goodreads or NetGalley, wherever you want. It doesn't. If it's a good or bad, just rate the book. I mean, that's important.
yeah.
It
It's
gives the
very
author feedback, but to be constructive, you know, on your
it
feedback.
Yeah, no, it definitely helps. And I tell you what, I watch mine on Amazon with bated breath. Oh, I got another one. Oh, I got another one.
Yeah.
So that's always good. It warms the author's heart a little bit. But here's another thing. Every time you leave a review, it helps the author on Amazon's algorithms because the ratings change the way, the search criteria is done. So the more reviews you get, obviously, the more you're going to move up on
Mm-hmm.
any type of search criteria that they have, and that's really important. That's really how authors try and sell more books, especially if you're, not on the top five publisher
Yeah. Yeah, I
portfolio.
did this when I self-published this one.
There's
Uh,
nothing wrong with that.
yeah, I mean it was great because I put it out. It's already pre-sales on Amazon and everything, and
Hmm.
but I'll
Yeah,
read a book. Oh, you know what? There's a quote mixing, or there's a word. I go back here, update the files, boom. Because when I send it out, the book is you know damn good shape. And
yeah,
so plus
absolutely.
the other folks, and then all the cover and everything. So
Yeah,
well, great. Well, Matt, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and we wish you the most success in your three you got going. Continue to sell those, and then your next one. That when you do put it out, we're gonna have you back on here to
I
talk about that
appreciate
one,
it.
and
Thanks. I thank you. I really appreciate that, Travis. Thank you
and
so
maybe
much.
next time you don't have an 8 to 5 job.
That would
You
be
got
nice, right? That's the dream. That's the dream. We'll see. Fingers crossed, right?
yeah, you probably be working more, but it'll be more enjoyable.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, thanks, Matt. We'll
Thank
see
you
you
very
later.
much.
Bye bye.